Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Netflix. It is time for another update and it seems it is managing to consolidate at a decently high level post the abandoning of the acquisition of the Warner Bros. Discovery. And this is actually interesting, but we still need to see some extensions to even higher prices before we would get more substantial evidence that a bottom would be in place. And I would still not have a lot of faith in the current pattern that would allow extensions to high prices. I do see a plan, I do see a couple of options even, but I wouldn't find them too reliable. Now, we'll of course discuss about that path in a moment, but before that I want to provide the full context for the larger time frame that we are tracking here. And it's basically a series of 1-2 setups from the beginning, yeah, something like this, and then this would work out, or it would be able to work out as a large wave tree to the upside. Now, full disclosure, this is not the only possible interpretation of this structure. I could just as well track a leading diagonal, in which case we might be looking for an even more substantial top to form in the relatively near term, but we are still able to look for an impulse. I still believe it is something to consider, and with this being the case, we could be looking at this to be a wave 5 top in place to have a larger wave 3 and even a larger wave 4 correction, but I'm also considering this to potentially be only the beginning of a much larger structure that could instead allow this to be a 1-2 setup part of the larger wave 3 to the upside, where this would imply that instead of having a wave 3 here, this would have been just another wave 1 to the upside. Now, it doesn't really matter at this point. Within these interpretations, within all of these, we are preferring still a retreat into the $60 level at the very least. And unless we manage to reach those points, those levels for the area of support, my primary assumption will be that we would witness instead an extension of the structure within this area, whether it is a wave 5 or something else, not being too much of a relevant point, but it would certainly be within the expectation, the pattern of a diagonal structure. Now, in the previous videos, we have been looking for a potential 5-wave pattern to be occurring to the downside in this as a wave A in a yellow structure, yeah? And it's not necessary, to be clear, to complete this as a 5-wave pattern to be able to track the yellow interpretation, but it would be a strong indication that after a B wave correction, we would be looking for a wave C to take us to even lower prices, yeah? If we fulfill the expectations of the blue structure, well, that is a strong indication we are looking for continuation to even lower prices. At this point, it is not the case. At this point, we are actually looking quite healthy, at least from a larger time frame perspective, and we have managed to break here the smaller time frame area of resistance that would have allowed an internal extension of this wave 3 to the downside. But with the break of the $94.9 level, we can now safely assume that either this is a larger wave 4 unfolding, or this wave A in yellow could even have a bottom in place, yeah? I'm not really looking for extensions within this structure to the downside outside of the larger area of resistance we have here in blue, and in fact I will even remove this smaller time frame structure because it's really not necessary. I am considering at this point this wave 3 to the downside to have a full pattern, and I'm looking for this to be a wave 4 if it is still going to continue this structure to lower prices. However, this is not the only area of resistance we have been tracking, and by the way, if you enjoy these updates, if you enjoy these videos, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, as we actually provide content on these stocks very frequently. And if you want to support us directly, you can even check out the channel membership, but any of those actions would be greatly appreciated. And as a thank you, I invite you to even sign up to our channel newsletter, where you even get access to our monthly top picks, which is completely free. You don't even need to enter anything but the email to be able to receive all of this information. Now, Within this structure, again, we are still looking for continuation to lower prices, potentially within a wave 5 against the $103.8. We are looking to build an ABC structure, and if we manage to break that, well, I would have to assume, once again, that a wave A in this yellow structure has already bottomed, and we would be looking at a larger flat correction, where the area of resistance would allow quite a substantial push, but I would still be looking with high risk for this extension to higher prices, as the larger structure, the 1 degree higher count, is strongly suggesting to us that this is not a reliable pattern. In the best case scenario, we are looking to head into higher prices as part of the end of a larger diagonal structure. Now, in terms of resistance, we can track as high as the $167.3 in the case of an overshoot, but already from a larger resistance area perspective, we start to see some signs that yes, we are reacting to those levels. We have pushed here into the 50% retracement in this latest extension perfectly before retracing to lower prices. Now, this is also in confluence with this swing high, and I would also be watching out to get a rejection, not necessarily a reversal into lower lows, but I do see here a resistance area in this gap between the $103.8 up to the 61.8% retracement here in red at $107.4. So in between that, we also have this swing high, which was a decently substantial top at its time. So even if we manage to continue in this uptrend, I would be watching out for that area to provide a more substantial correction to occur afterwards. Now, before we move into the smaller time frame, I also wanted to highlight the possibility of a direct extension to higher prices. So here, I could be looking for this idea of an extension in a diagonal structure, because I've been mentioning this throughout this video, and I actually wanted to provide you a roadmap of what you could be looking to form within such an expectation. And we basically have only one really viable option in my opinion, and not even that one is too great, because we have a very large correction in a supposed wave 4 here. So I could theoretically look at this to be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And for this expectation, we would check if within a wave 3 we would have reached the ideal target. And not quite, yeah, we did push into the 123.6% extension, whereas the ideal target was the 138.2% extension. Not necessarily an impossibility for this to be the actual wave 3, but not ideal either. Now, I could be considering the wave 1 top to have been here instead, but this as a wave 2 correction would have been even smaller. I find that even more difficult to consider reliable, and I wouldn't see a big difference in terms of support, what we could be expecting for such an idea. And let's say we track this within, not blue, we are using blue for something else, so I don't know, let's say orange. And in this expectation, we can notice we pushed below the 38.2% retracement. If we track this as the wave 3 beginning, well, we didn't manage to get quite to 38.2% retracement, but the idea is we would be within the area of support, and ultimately what I want you to take away from this is that there are interpretations that would allow direct extensions, but no, they are not reliable trade setups. They are here to provide alternatives to this reversal to higher prices, but ultimately I would still be extremely wary, as we are within a very difficult pattern, a very difficult area, and I wouldn't recommend, unless we identify within a smaller time frame, to look for positions within these structures. Now, in the smaller time frame, we have finally gotten to it. We are looking even at a potential impulse to be taking place in this area, and we have formed here the low point. Now, I would probably prefer this to have been a truncation. Doesn't matter too much. We can dismiss those small time frame distortions, and I would probably track here something like a double 1-2-1-2 setup, and this is what I would consider to be part of our wave 3 to the upside, yeah, all of it together, where I would be looking right now for a wave 4 correction, and it's definitely not an easy structure to follow. It never really is when you get such shallow retracements, but I would be looking for support to start at the $95.9 level. Now, as we clearly haven't managed to get deep retracements, we haven't gotten into our areas of support. This can continue, I cannot rule that out, but I wouldn't be looking for positions here anyway. Now, we'll be tracking this direct extension to higher prices in this white structure, and if we break here the $91 level, we would need to consider that this has likely been forming instead a diagonal pattern where we might even have a top in place. So to be clear, I am not seeing this as a high probability structure. Rarely do we build such movements to the upside that provide clear areas to look for a position. Sure, technically I could be looking for a wave 2 correction area here, but I don't necessarily consider this to be a sustainable uptrend just yet, yes? We haven't gotten clear structures, clear corrections, and when those are lacking in such a pattern, it is often the case that the movement to the upside gets exhausted. If we even look here on the RSI on the daily, we can see that we are in the oversold territory. We have been at much higher prices within this region while having a much lower RSI. Now, this isn't necessarily as apparent from a large time frame perspective as on the weekly, but I still believe it is something to watch out, yeah? It's not a sustainable uptrend in my opinion, at least I do not see it as one yet, and I wouldn't be looking for a position personally. And even if we go within the smaller time frame, we do not have clear divergences that would even suggest that we have an initial 5-wave move to the upside. And yes, those are going to be more difficult to track, certainly, but ultimately, yes, I wouldn't trust this pattern. I find it unsustainable at the moment. I would like to see some more clear structure, especially if this is to be a wave 1 of a larger uptrend, yeah? This is the type of pattern I would like to see within a wave 3. That's where I would even expect to see it, not within the beginning of a larger uptrend, to make this a more reliable structure in my opinion. Now, for those of you who don't care about any of this and my opinion, you could of course be looking for the broader area of support for a potential wave 2 correction. I don't necessarily recommend this, but I would be watching here for the $80 level to be broken for a signal that this has indeed topped within a wave 4 and we are going in the wave 5 to lower prices here in an ABC structure to complete our larger wave A in a leading diagonal. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, once again, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and don't forget to check out our channel membership if you want to support us directly and if you enjoy our content. Other than that, let me know what else you would like me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.